foreshortening. We can understand better what foreshortening is when we understand what it isn't. So if we were to look at this box form from its most extreme kind of length side, I'm going to make it a little bit larger and longer. This box or brick form, I'll probably interchange that a little bit along the way. And we'll understand it to be, from its side view, looking straight on, we don't see the top or bottom. Its true longest length. We'll see it like that. It's just full-on length. And so there's no foreshortening whatsoever at all, right? And the same thing with the cylinder. We'll turn it down to the side, and I'll bring its length over and bring a curve just to show you the difference a little bit. It could actually look straight in an extreme kind of length way, but we'll bring a curve over to show you that moving through, okay, like so. Maybe I'll put a little contouring line on it so you can start to get the idea of that turns underneath. Get the idea there. So what we can understand about these two drawings is that there is no foreshortening at all between the brick and the cylinder in our viewpoint. So if we go over now and go just the opposite way with our forms, if we look at them in a most extreme foreshortened kind of way. So here we have none, okay, none here. And we have full length here. And here we're going to have maybe the extreme of foreshortening, meaning that in its most extreme sense, it will be flat. Now this shows its true length, okay? But on this side, we want to fatten it up so much so that, it sounds like a turkey, but we want to give it its largest width that makes it even flatter. We're not even dealing with form at the moment. It's so flat. So what we get then is this view now here, and it becomes very, very thick, very flat. And the same thing now happens with the cylinder, that it reduces down into what? It reduces down into a circular form here. Same thing here, it reduces down into a rectangular form. And so we have now the extremes of foreshortening in through here. Foreshortening. And so that's the extremes. Everything in between falls in this area. We have, I'll just put FS for foreshortening just to shorten it up. And the closer we get to this flatness, or this wide width, or what later on could be overlapping, we get an increased sense of foreshortening. And the farther we push back in through to its true length, we get less sense of foreshortening. So I think that's important to understand and realize when we're dealing with foreshortening. So a couple of terms I'm going to throw out there for you that happens in foreshortening. And again, we're going to look at this through objects, through the drawing of bricks and tubes, or boxes and tubes, and then I'll show you a couple more different diagrams that you can draw. And then we'll look at it through, we'll do a still life together of these same objects where we observe that, and then we'll look at the figures. So it's a three-part series to help you understand. Universally round, it really doesn't help to show the concept of foreshortening by its length. And so these have length where the sphere, in a general sense, in a drawing sense, it doesn't. So it's not the greatest object to show foreshortening. Now let's foreshorten this cylinder out this way. So I'll push our direction of the the cylinder going back in the background this way. So already we'll get the back of the cylinder here, and notice that we start to get overlapping immediately. One of your most important ideas in drawing foreshortening is the sense that it's overlapping. So here's the very back of that cylinder. So now we can taper it, we can slim it up, and notice this is pretty fat, pretty wide for a front view. Okay, we can taper this, slim this up, connect the sides here, and we can connect the side here back to its slightly elliptical back, almost a circle. And we can connect this, and what you notice, now we have a can or a cylinder that is foreshortened in space, and it starts to show dimension and depth, but it's pushed back. This is going to come in handy later on when you draw still life objects, and when you also draw the figure. What's true of these objects will be true of a leg, an arm, a toe, a series of toes, and legs and arms together. Hopefully it will make grander sense. When you ever get in trouble drawing an object, and it's difficult, go back to its most simplest, basic form, and that would be the tube, the box, or the sphere, and they won't lie to you. They will always be your best friend. All right, so we have a few beginning foreshortened ideas here. Let's continue to draw some further ones, so we'll see that in different viewpoints and aspects. And so what do you notice about here? Here we're looking up on the box, right? Here we're looking slightly down on the can or viewpoint. I think that's important to realize what your viewpoint is, even if you're drawing out of your head, especially if you're drawing out of your head. You designers out there, product designers, architects, whomever you are, this material, this basic kind of material is at your disposal to be manipulated to and made more complex when the time is right to make it more complex. So let's look at some different various angles too as well. All right, let's take a look at another cylinder or two or box or two in terms of foreshortening. So we can change the viewpoint a little bit, or the orientation of our box or our brick. So we'll stand it up a little bit. We'll sketch it out. And so I ask myself, what viewpoint or aspect do I want to communicate? Since I'm not drawing from the object, do I want to see it from bottom right here? Do I want to see it from bottom left, top, slightly left, slightly right? I want to see it from bottom and then slightly right this way, okay? So now I'll change a little bit, and so I know that I want to see an extreme viewpoint, so I'll start to thrust my angles. And there's a great degree of perspective going on, but I just want you to feel it intuitively for now, okay? And so I want to get the idea that this is a longer brick, so I might let this side go a little bit longer here, and then tighten up this side in through here, and come back over. And already we have merged a foreshortened brick. So we get some overlapping of the back. If I draw the back in through here, it will look something like this, just slightly overlapped by there. So it's my understanding that any form that you draw that shows depth and dimension, that's not an extreme flat length view, has got some degree always of foreshortening. But what we really talk about when we mention and utilize foreshortening is what? The more extreme kinds of views where you get these difficult flat views. And again, go back to your vocabulary. I think it's in the tapering part of it, slim views and tapering that students get into a little trouble because they want to show, again, a more lengthier or flatter, longer side, and they don't want to show that tapering. And so that can get them into a little bit of trouble. So I'll tighten this up a little bit if you're drawing along with me. Try to draw along if you can. And then tune me out, and then start drawing your own stuff here as well. So we've got this here, and so we get this nice tapered kind of brick form. So we want to hang on to the integrity that it's a rectangular type of box, right? It's not a perfect cube. It could be, which is fine. But we want to get the idea that this form continues to take on the integrity of the form that we want to draw. I think the rectangular box is great for that viewpoint. I'll give a little bit of expression to kind of the front side, a little depth, a little dimension through here. Okay. And so we can do the same thing over here. We'll do another tube. And the less flat that you open this up, these should be close to open ovals or almost circles. Matter of fact, they could be complete circles if we're looking straight on. Okay? So I'll make this just a slight oval. And we'll bring this the opposite. We'll bring it down in through here. And we'll get that over. Now I can bring this first if I wanted to. I can bring it to this angle, bring it down. So I can change that angle quite a bit. So I'm already thrusting. I've decided it's going to be pulled back in this point of view, correct? So we have that. And we have that. So this is moving in this direction. And we see that. And so I can cut off the back of my cylinder. Now if I want to taper it even further, I can to make it even more extreme. So it's really going back in space. So I'll cut off here. And all of a sudden, here's the oval through here. And it does get, you'll see that, it gets a little overlap right in through here, right? If it was glass, that's what it would look like. Then we can bring our back, connect these two. You always want to make sure that that curve stays integral to your drawing here. So you can take your ruler and tighten this up, but you don't want to feel as the straight line comes into the cylinder that it stays straight kind of angular line. You have to be very careful with that as a drawing. Definitely a big drawing tip there though. So this can come over, curve, continue to curve, right in through. Keep on going. Right in through there. So I think that's important. So what we get now is we'll come back and complete that, is we'll get that sense of, again, foreshortening coming across that form. So overlapping, you get everything, it's essentially mostly at one point, it's got a slanting or tapering view, it's got overlapping. The front to back is shorter than, here's the front, right? Let me make sure that's clear. The front to back, here's the very back, here's the very front. Look how short of a view we have, okay? So if I shade that underneath, we'll put some contouring, cross-contouring underneath there a little bit, okay? See that? Look at the difference between this shortening and there. So if I redraw this form here, without any foreshortening, and we keep the proportions that I want overall, what's going to happen? Well, it's going to look like a rectangle. And so if it's a tube here, right, so we have that. And if I close it where we don't see any of the opening of the ellipse on both sides, which we wouldn't in a completely flat view of the length into here, that's what we're seeing. So there's no, again, there's no foreshortening of this tube at all. So I'll put the tone on it so you'll see it. Right? So there's no foreshortening there at all, none. And so that's as long as length as you're going to get. That's its true length. So if that was, it could be 6 feet, it could be 60 feet if it's a concrete pillar, or it could be 6 inches. This is the same here. So this distance from here to here, right, is the same as this distance to here, but it's only foreshortening. And so that is truly the power of foreshortening, is that slimming, tapering, widening the view, right, flatter through here, overlap kind of view, and again, we show this depth and dimension, right, in, again, a foreshortening kind of way. I think that's hopefully getting clearer to you how important that is. So if we take a box form now, and we make it a little bit more complex, over here, we can take this box and maybe we make it, or brick, we can make it slightly tilted over here, okay? And that's pretty flat. So again, it's more of those views where it's coming right at you or close to at you that is the trouble point. Going back up here to the top diagram, that's not so foreshortened. Why? Because it's a 2-point box or brick, and it's not necessarily coming at you, and so the length is close to its normative length, right? You get an underside, you get a right side. So this box we want to make feel coming close to us. So for this view, what I'll do is I'll show, let's see, we've done left, we've done right, maybe I'll do something top here a little bit. And so I can say, okay, I don't want this brick to show this far, maybe I'll show it coming this far. So here would be the back view of our brick, and I can do it that way, just to show that depth. Look at how little of the form of the brick, its length, which is this side that we're drawing. It's so squeezed. I'm going to taper this out a little even more so, make it go further away, so it'd be about right here, the back of it, just to make it a little bit more extreme. And so this brick could be flying almost at us, slightly going away from us to the left. If it was truly coming at us, we would see the top, bottom, left, or right, correct? And so we know it'd be coming right at us, and we freeze that in terms of animation. So I'll tighten this box up a little bit, this brick up a little bit. I'll interchange those as we can here, and then here. Tighten that up. That's why the ruler's nice. So you can sketch quick and crisp and use your hard edge. And I like to use Sharpie for some of these because it doesn't smear it a little faster. And it's clear on camera. It's really nice and clear. You can see that. And so again, this goes back into space, right, pretty quickly. So we're moving in this direction pretty quickly. And that gives you your side view of that box. And of course, this view here gives you, we can tone that back there if we want as well. Gives you that, you're going back into space. And of course, this plane stays pretty flat to our eye, and the reason why is, again, we're getting more extreme foreshortening where it's coming at you. So let's do a few more extreme kind of things, and we'll do this with the tube. So we'll do the tube over here, right? And so let's make sure, again, we get all our vocabulary form. So we're drawing something coming at us, and it is flat, wide. It's got a lot of width to it. Check, we got that. Okay, so the front to back is going to be shorter. Now it's coming right at us. it wouldn't have its tapered cylinder. We wouldn't see any one of these areas around it. But since we are showing some foreshortening, and again, that would be the most extreme. Let's do something a little bit different here. Let's say it's coming at us. There's this tube coming at us, and it's going to go over our head a little bit instead of underneath us or hit us in the chest. So what we want to do then is show that it's going to come slightly over our head a little bit. And I'm going to put it slightly coming at us and over our head to the left. How would I do that? Well, that means that the angle that it's coming from would be to the bottom right. So what I'm going to do also is show you that this is slightly, I could actually slightly curve that up. If it was coming down towards us, like hitting our chest, I might show it slightly downward. And that's the reason why it gets us where our perspective is. Even though it would be relatively flat across here, I can push that a little bit. All right, so how much do we want to show? How close is it? Or how absolutely close to dead on is it? So the more I show the length, the less it's dead on, the less higher it is. I could show the length back here. Like this could be the taper tube here. I could do that. Or I could bring it in closer. Or I could bring it in really close. Like about right in through here. So let's show the overlap first. So here would be the overlap. Now again, I'm trying to keep the ratio of what I have up here, correct? We have that. And so now I'm going to taper this. Or not taper it, but overlap it so we see it. And you can draw through there, see? I'm using a Sharpie and just lightening my touch. You can draw through that. You can darken this in later on. So here's the very back of my tube. This could got a bit bullet right there. But you get the idea, something's coming at you. But it's slightly off, so it's moving slightly in this direction, but close to us, it's just going to miss us. So we have that. Then we can connect the sides. So I can bring my line here, right? My foreshortening. And there's where it touches. We want to make sure that that's curving. All of that place where it touches it, it's not really even straight. It's the point where it touches, and then you want to curve that. Curve that on through. Curve that on through, like so. Here. Keep on curving. I'm going to put a shadow on this side underneath. So you'll see that foreshadow through here. Let's get that, that's right. And let's darken it a little bit on top. So what you also get, the closer that something gets to you that's coming at you, or close to at you, is you get, this gets larger, right? It gets more detailed, okay? So we can say then maybe this is going to be a rocket, and it's got a tipping point, where the tipping point would be about right here, slightly off center, because this is, if it was coming right at us, it would be right dead on center. So into here. So what I could do, let's say this is some kind of rocket ship to the moon, and it's taking off. And so we would show maybe the tip of that rocket slightly like so, correct. And everything, all its height and dimension could be coming at a point, like so, if you will. Okay. And then we can do this kind of around this and through here. There we go. So what we have now is something that's coming really close to us, but it's going to miss us and not hit us just off. If it was going to hit us, it would be straight on. And we would not see any sign, any top or bottom, but we would see this flat plane across. Then you would have the apex at the point of the projectile, or the rocket, and it would be super flat, something kind of like that coming right in through and hitting us. And so I think that's important to see and realize is that we want those super flat views, but foreshortening, the difficult part happens when we get off the extreme flat and we get slightly aside. So the difficult part happens definitely in through here, okay? So I think that's important to see and to realize. And when you start to deal with anatomy, arms, hands, toes, feet, all those difficult body parts, shoulders, coming right at you, I think that gets pretty difficult. So what if we had, lastly, before we go on, what if we had two cylinders coming at us together and they were slightly attached? Well, let's work on that idea. But they were moving in slightly two different directions. Okay, so let's do that. So we have a cylinder here, correct? Meaning that we're going to draw the front plane of it, okay, through here. And we're going to slightly, maybe we're looking above it just slightly. No, let's go below, so we won't ruin that. My beautiful number 2 number, right? Okay. And so we'll move it slightly in this direction. And so we're dealing with the same ratio that we've done before with our tubes. So we're coming down this way, and we're coming down this way. And we want to show some foreshortening. Here's the end of our tube, pretty curved, over and through there. Of course, it would overlap, so we got our overlapping, our tapering view. We're good to go there. Well, okay, what if we want a connected one somehow over and across, and maybe show a little length coming, let's say maybe coming in this way. Maybe I'll do more than that. Well, we could bring another tube that might connect. Maybe it's going back in this way from here. So maybe it would come down here. It would come off here, off the other one, and connect up and through here. Okay. So let's darken that in. Let's take a look at what we've drawn. We have that there. We can connect our length here. Okay. And let's draw our circle around. So I vacillate between a pin view, holding view, and a palm view. You draw what's natural, what's best for you. So I like to slice these cylinders so you know what the end of it is. You know it's a cylinder a little bit. I like a little pie slice through there. So we have that. Then what we're saying, back in through here, this was another cylinder, right? Going in this direction and going down. And here's its ending point down in through here. Taper, ending point through here. So I'll put a little shadow here, and I'll put a little shadow there. And now we're two cylinders going back together. And so you get now two taperings of the same cylinder. And you can continue that on even further as well. So we can do that maybe with a couple boxes. So let's put a tilted box here. Okay. And let's move that slightly downward this way. Here. Like so. And here's the end of that box in perspective, but also now very foreshortened. So we'll bring this end up. So we have that view foreshortening. But what if it's our back here? We want to move this box maybe down and slightly this way. So it's like two connecting boxes. All right, so what we have, we'll move it here. We can move that there and over. We can bring this through, and we get a little foreshortening there too as well. Not as much, but a little bit. So it's kind of like an opening of two boxes coming in through. Here, let me tie that up for you so you can see that. So you can start start to, I won't say play this game, but actually better explore the idea of foreshortening with kind of multiple forms. And you'll find that it's a powerful tool to show depth and dimension in a more extreme way that comes close to coming at you in your viewpoint to your eye. I think several artists throughout these centuries have tried to develop certain techniques, certain light refraction, camera obscuras, Vermeer, Albert Dürer to name probably a few. David Hockney talked about that. If you don't know who David Hockney is, he kind of reinvigorated this camera, this light gathering device. I use camera loosely, but it projected figures from the light that they were giving off in shadow into an aperture, and that aperture would reflect onto the surface of a piece of paper, and you can trace that off to help you with extremes of foreshortening, which I totally suggest that you do research and that you look up. But I think that you're also rewarded by doing this kind of study over and over again. You're learning to draw that and correct that. The mistakes that you'll make when you're drawing foreshortening from the figure, because you'll want to lengthen it. That's just a natural order of things. You'll definitely want to try to lengthen it. But what you can learn is if you practice this enough, have people look at it, you can start to realize that, okay, I got to shorten this up from the view I'm getting. And what you see is you can approximate quite well that which needs to be done in order to show foreshortening. All right, so that's kind of the introduction to taming this beast, if you will, of foreshortening, making it your own, making your drawing and your draftsmanship stronger. So my suggestion is to take some time, really take some time, spend drawing out a lot of forms in your sketchbooks. If you have them, you're keeping them, in learning to control these forms. And the more that you do that, in practice foreshortening, and the more that you do that, you'll realize that you'll be obviously going to grow and get better over time, in that you can start to see these forms emerge on other still life objects and certainly onto the figurative model, which is probably where most of you, but not all of you, would want to wind up working with, at least somewhat in part. Okay? All right, so what I want to do now is go on to the next drawing. We're going to take a diagrammatic view, and we're going to work with boxes, and I'm going to show you many multiple kinds of views with boxes that show foreshortening and where the extreme points are. Okay? All right, so I'll be right back, and we'll do some more drawings. See you then. Bye-bye. Okay, now let's take a look at foreshortening in a more direct observational way, or maybe we could say more practical way, or a little bit less theoretical. And we'll look at and try to draw exactly what we see. So I've got several images here that we'll look at, and I'll try to run through as many sketches as I can. We're going to do quicker sketches to stay loose with it, not get too tight, but to try to stay also as crisp and as clean as we can. So it's quick sketching, it's technical, it's clean, but there's not a lot of detail. We're drawing simplified, or relatively simple form. And materials I'm going to use today, I'm going to use newsprint today for these drawings. I'm going to use carbon velvet pencils and a hard edge. I like to use a hard edge to sketch with if I know I've got a lot of planes and angles, but hopefully you'll see that I utilize it in a way that is not too stiff or too tight. I want to get you to stay loose. You can still stay gestural even when you're drawing with still life objects as well. All right, so let's get started. So the first image I have is of a couple of boxes, a cylinder, and a glass cup, and it looks like a little orange tangerine. And you'll notice that what we've got here is most everything is looking now slightly from above, except for the cylinder, which is generally kind of at our eye level. We don't see the top or bottom so much, but we do see more of the left side. So the first thing I'm going to establish is that plane of the table. So about right in through here in my drawing, I'll establish the plane of my table. And I'm going to try to go pretty fast. So what also I'm going to do is I'm going to do a lot of demos for you, and then you can take the images that I have for these drawings, and I'll put them at the end of this lesson, and you can image capture them, or you can freeze them, pause them, and draw from them. And certainly, most importantly, is go and get your own still life objects and draw from them. I think that's truly key to all of this. So the first thing I'm going to look at, I think I'll go for, is this kind of purple box. And I'm going to start to find where it falls in its composition. And what you'll notice is it's a little higher, it breaks the table plane here, but we can still see the top of it. So we'll come across here. It's kind of a rectangle. Okay, welcome back. And today's lesson is going to be on some basic sketching exercises, all right? We acquired in our contemporary practice.